first question this afternoon. In addition, if you have a question for either one of them, please direct your question to either Drake or Slater. Thank you very much. Phil Thompson from the Chicago Tribune will have our first question. Phil, your line is active. You can go ahead.
This question is for Slater. Slater, looking at the numbers, the D-men seem to do a much better job in game 2 of blocking shots and protecting Crawford. What can you take from that and bring into game 3? Any other further adjustments?
Well, we have the utmost confidence in Crawford, but anytime we can step in front of a shot, to make his life a little bit easier, we'll try and do that. I thought we did an okay job in game 2, like you said, and hopefully can keep doing it moving into game 3.
Our next question is from Charlie Romeliotis from NBC Sports Chicago. Charlie, you can go ahead.
This for Drake. You guys have hit 10 posts this postseason, which is more than double other teams. How frustrating has that been? And do you feel like it's only a matter of time before you guys break through in that area?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough hitting the post. It's you're close to scoring a goal, but that's hockey. It's all about bounces, and sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. You just got to stick with it, and it's kind of a weird stat. I never really thought about that stat before, but it's just something you just got to keep shooting the puck and trust that you're going to get your chances and make sure that you try and capitalize. But hitting the post is never a fun feeling, and unless it's going in the net, and you just got to make sure it doesn't discourage us.
We'll now go to Carter Baum from Blackhawks.com. Carter, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Also for Drake, you guys had a lot of success not only in back-to-backs this season, but in the second game of back-to-backs. What kind of confidence does that give you guys? Maybe a little extra boost of confidence going into this weekend and 2 pivotal games for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're just worrying about game 3 right now. It's one game at a time. Obviously we play a lot of back-to-backs in our schedule this season, but it's playoffs. It's one game at a time, and we'll worry about the second game when that time comes. But right now we're focused on game 3 and making sure we get back in the series.
We'll now go to Chris Bowden from WGN Radio. Chris, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Hey, Slater, how important is it to try to find a way to park what seemed like one that got away last night? It seemed like, when you go to third period overtime, you're one shot away. In terms of the team's psyche, how confident are you that everyone's able to park it and move along to game 3?
Yeah, I think we want to park the whole losing in overtime thing, but I hope that we bring a lot of the things that we did in the game into game 3. I liked our first 2 periods. I thought we were on our toes, playing well, and the third we dropped off a little bit, but obviously we want to park those negatives, but bring those positives as well to the next game.
We'll now go to Tracy Myers from NHL.com. Tracy, your line is active. You can go ahead.
Hi, Drake. This is for you. Patrick Kane last night was complimentary to you being on that line with him and Kirby, and just your thoughts on what you guys were able to do together, especially with that goal.
Yeah, I think they're obviously both very talented players, and I try to play a complementary role and try and create space for them and get them the puck as much as I can and cause havoc in front of the net. And I know exactly what my role is when I play with those guys, and they make my job easier by obviously their talent and stuff like that. And they made a great play on the goal. I was able to get in front of the net and park my butt there and create opportunities for the other guys. And I think we have a good blend of different skill sets on that line, and hopefully we can build off that heading into the next game.
I'll go to Ben Pope from the Chicago Sun-Times. Ben, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Yeah, also for you, Drake. You mentioned before the playoffs how you thought your game would translate really well to the postseason kind of style, and being a restricted free agent that you hoped that would prove that. Has it lived up to what you were hoping, and has it been disappointing to not have some points to sort of as a reward for your efforts?
I'm not one of those guys that's really worried about points. Points will come. If you keep doing the right things, you're going to get your points. And I mean, it is what it is. I'm not the guy that's sitting out there looking for points. I know what my role is. I know what I have to do to be successful. I know what I have to do to help players around me be successful. And, I didn't get a point on the goal yesterday that our line scored, but I was able to contribute in a lot of different ways on that play. And, I know that's exactly what my role is. And in terms of thinking about the restricted free agency, it's not in my mind right now. It's just about playing hockey, and that stuff will get taken care of whenever playoffs is over. But like I said, I'm just focused on playing hockey right now. And, the points will come if you keep doing the right things over and over again. You're going to eventually get rewarded for it.
We'll now go to Jim Matheson from the Edmonton Journal. Jim, your line is active and you can go ahead.
This is for Drake also. You've played a while now on the same team as Patrick Kane. Can you tell early in a game that he's really feeling it? I mean, last night Peter DeBoer said he was dangerous every single shift and made something happen. Can you feel that with Patrick?
I mean, he's always dangerous. Whatever game it is, he's always dangerous. He finds ways to create all the time. But there are certain moments in games where you can just see that fire in his eyes, and maybe he gets a point early, or makes a great play early and gets an opportunity, and you can just tell that there's a little bit extra juice in his game. And when he gets that look in his eye, you can tell like he's going to be firing tonight. And he's fun to play with, fun to watch out there when he's playing like that. And playoff Patrick Kane is a different player than the regular season as well. So it's fun to watch him do that, and it's fun to be a part of, and hopefully he can keep that going as well.
We'll now go to Carter Baum from Blackhawks.com. Carter, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Slater, for you guys had really the first kind of mix-up on the back end last night, bringing in Lucas Carlson. What did you think of some of those adjustments and his first taste of playoff action?
Well, it's a big stage for him, and I thought he handled it well. I know he was on the ice for a couple goals against, but, he brings a lot of poise with that puck, and, we'll see what happens here in Game 3. For me and Ole, our game doesn't change. We're trying to work on our game on the off days, watching video, and trying to get better.
We'll now go back to Phil Thompson from the Chicago Tribune. Phil, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Slater, if you look at the numbers for the Golden Knights, they're very good in the third period, not just with you guys, but just they've been that throughout the postseason. What is it specifically that they do, and what adjustments do you think you can make for Game 3?
Well, I think I was just talking earlier today to another guy on the team how, they force you to be so disciplined throughout the first two periods, where I thought we were good last night. We were just playing our game, sticking to it. But then it makes you want to get out of your structure to try and create some offense. And I think that's where they get you, because once you start either cheating on the wrong side of the puck or, trying to create this offense, then that's when they really capitalize on you. So I think that could be why they're such a good third period team. But, we'll watch the video and see what we can do. But if we can stick to that game for more than two periods, I think we'll be even better.
We'll go back to Ben Pope from the Chicago Sun-Times. Ben, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Slater, against the Oilers, you guys did such a good job of getting shots on net and creating traffic on the way through. It seems like Vegas has done a better job of blocking shot lanes and just blocking shots in general. What can you do to maybe open that up a bit more in terms of being able to get shots to the net?
Yeah, they're doing a good job, like you said, blocking a lot of shots. We're trying to get that puck up to the D so we can find a lane and create offense. You saw how Highmore did it in the Edmonton series with tips, and we got a lot of guys who can tip the puck well. So, that's on us as D-man to try and either pump fake that shot blocker or, move it to our partners to get that shot through.
Drake, Slater, we appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you very much. Media, if you could please hold the line. We'll be back with Jeremy Colleton in the next couple minutes. Thanks again, gentlemen, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you much for joining us today. Good afternoon, media. We'll get started right away. If you have a question, please press the raise hand button and we'll get to you. Our first question is from Scott Powers with The Athletic. Scott, your line is active. Go ahead.
Jeremy, when you look back at the third period or when the stretches where Vegas is carrying the play, what are they doing so well offensively?
Well, I think they're a big team and they advance the puck. They find a way to move it ahead and drive it into the offensive zone, whether they're skating it or chipping it in. They got a really good forecheck, and they're a big team. They protect the puck well in the offensive zone, and they try to play sort of the territorial game. It's a challenge for us, but I thought first two periods, both games, game 1 and 2, we did a really good job, and we've got to find a way to do it for 3.
We'll now go to Phil Thompson from the Chicago Tribune. Phil, your line's active. You can go ahead.
Thanks for doing this, Jeremy. Stastny was talking about his line with Riley Smith and Montresel, but he noted that the other lines set them up well, and it's part of the reason why they've had a lot of success. They've had a lot of success against the Blackhawks going through the regular season. Is that something you've noticed, and is there some way to counteract that?
Yeah, I mean they're doing to us what we want to do to them, and it's kind of a back and forth. We had some shifts where we were able to hem them in and change in the offensive zone and not allow them to change, and they did it to us. The overtime goal is a perfect example. I think it was the tuck lines out there, and they find a way to advance it and keep it deep. Don't let us change, and then the Stastny line comes out, and they're playing against tired guys, and we had a few opportunities to advance the puck, to get it out, get it in, and get fresh guys out. We didn't do it, and that's the game. So they're a good team. We know what they're trying to do, and we're trying to do it to them.
Now go to Ben Pope from the Chicago Sun-Times. Ben, your line's active. Go ahead.
Hey, Jeremy. Going into the playoffs, it seemed like a lot of people, himself included, thought Drake Caggiula could be a real X factor for you guys. He doesn't have any points yet, but you move him up in the line chart last night. How would you assess how he's played so far, and what do you hope to see from him moving forward?
Yeah, he's a versatile player. He can do different things for you. He can play with good players because he gets on the forecheck and pressure on the puck and forces turnovers. He's willing to go to the net. He's got a really good shot. He's scored some big goals for us the last couple of years, and he can also be an energy guy and kill penalties. So he's a nice guy to have in your lineup to move around.
We'll now go to Carter Baum from Blackhawks.com. Carter, your line's active. Go ahead.
Jeremy, you guys found a lot of success during the regular season in these back-to-backs, going into the most pivotal one of the season in games 3 and 4. What's kind of been your team's success in your minds in these situations with just, I guess, kind of putting everything out of the way and just playing hockey?
Yeah, I think it's focusing on the next shift, focusing on what's right in front of you. So we're certainly not going to look ahead to game 4. It's our biggest game right here, and that's the one we got to be focused on. So we'll be ready for puck drop. That's the only thing we're talking about right now.
We'll now go to Tracy Myers from NHL.com. Tracy, your line is active. You can go ahead.
Hi, Jeremy. Regardless of when he comes back in with Adam Boquist, what do you want to see? What do you need to see from him moving forward?
Well, he's a young player. It's a high level. We're asking a lot out of him, but we think he can bring just his puck plays and his ability to break us out clean, and his offensive blue line, the things he can do on the offensive blue line just provide a little bit different dimension. So, we got to rest, and he'll have the opportunity to come back. We'll figure out the lineup tomorrow, but we think he can help us.
We'll now go to Scott Powers from The Athletic.
With
Scott,
Lucas,
go ahead.
with Lucas Carlson, how do you assess that? How do you assess his first game? And then on that goal, is there anything different he could have done around the net?
Well, the first one, we just would have loved to hold the net. There's a handoff behind the net, and love to just hold the net front a little bit longer. The overtime goal, they're tired. Those guys have been stuck out there, and we had a breakdown. So, I think he gave us some shifts. It's a young player playing his first playoff game, so not going to read too much into it.
We'll take one more from Jim Matheson from the Edmonton Journal. Jim, your line's
Jeremy, there was one shift there where Jonathan was tied up on a face-off circle, and Raves came right in and just pile drived him right in the face. And did that seem like a maneuver they were trying? Because Jonathan wins most of the face-offs, or even ties them up, and they just pile drive him right to the ice.
Yeah, we saw it. We didn't like it. I think we let the referees know we didn't like it. I don't think that's a hockey play. We're going to start taking freebies at centermen who were tied up at the dot. When the puck wasn't there, the puck was gone. I don't think that's a hockey play. So I think they know how we feel about it.
Jeremy, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it. And
you guys doing? Good. If you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started here. So get our first question from Brad Biggs. Go ahead, Brad.
Hey, Anthony. Thanks for taking some time this morning. I'm curious, has Ted Ginn been an influence on you in the room yet since his arrival with all of his experience? And then looking back on the off season, when you guys had those guest Zoom speakers, were there one or two that really stood out and maybe were your favorite?
First of all, Ted Ginn, he's been a great addition to the room. I think this is his 14th year, so he's bringing a lot of wisdom into the room, a lot of game he can give us. And every day, I think he makes it a point to give us any small points or pointers that he has. I say it's a great addition. And as far as the off-season talks, let's see, who do we talk to? Chris Carter. I probably enjoy his talk the most. He just gave us a lot of insight on the game, and I really appreciate it. Adam Johns.
Hey, Anthony. Last year, when you had that 5-game stretch late in the season where the numbers were there, the catches were there, what felt right to you? How would you put that into your words in terms of what was clicking? We talked to Mike Fury the other day. He said it wasn't so much what was happening on the field, but the way you were approaching things off the field. So what was kind of clicking for you?
I think I just started getting more opportunities to catch the ball. And I think when I get a chance to get my hands on it, I could be something special. Dan?
Anthony, Coach Furry takes a bit of a tough love approach with you at times. When he says to you, this isn't playground anymore, how do you translate that? And as you make this leap into your third year, what areas of the preparation process are you aiming to make the most improvements in?
When he says this isn't the playground anymore, he's really saying I have more responsibility this year within the offense, and I'm ready to take that role. And I'm ready for any challenge he throws my way. And what was your other question? You had
just in terms of the growth that you want to make in the preparation process in year 3 here.
I don't want to have any MAs. I want to be perfect out there on the field. I want to do each and every play right, and to the best of my ability. So I just want to have a smooth year as far as, knowing what I'm supposed to do.
Colleen?
Anthony, kind of along the same lines, how would you describe kind of the process of maturing and understanding your roles in terms of preparation and stuff like that off the field?
It's just, learning how to operate, like within the meeting room, the weight room, just around the whole building, just being a complete pro. And I think this is the year that I be that.
Hub?
Anthony, good morning. Among your friends away from the team, not your teammates, but your friends outside of the game, maybe family too, what's been their attitude towards the virus and everything you guys are dealing with? And how does that impact, if at all, your ability to stay focused on what you have to do with the team?
It hasn't really impacted me. I just had a baby, so I've been out the way anyway. I'm at the house all the time.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm never in contact with anyone, and people rarely come to my house. So there hasn't been too much concern. We get tested every day. They have a great setup here, so to ensure that we're safe, I think so.
JJ?
Anthony, I want to ask you about becoming a dad, and how has that changed your perspective just on playing football, just on life? How has that kind of altered your world?
Having a child would definitely change your life. You have a small person that's looking up to you. Everything you do, he's paying attention to. So it's definitely made me tighten up in certain aspects of my life, and I'm pretty sure it's only going to get better as my career goes on.
Kevin?
Hey, Anthony, you've been around Allen now since you entered the league. I'm wondering what are some of the things you've learned from him on the field, off the field, after kind of being his teammate?
You said, what are some of the things?
Yeah, what are things you picked up from Allen?
Just being attentive to every detail that comes with playing this game. It's really the small things that'll push you through most of the time. And Allen is a big guy on the small details. He does everything right, and he's a good guy to look up to. So I'm glad he's on our team.
Mike Berman?
Anthony, just generally speaking, what do you think will be the biggest challenge of playing a game, your first game, one month from today? Everything being condensed during the off season and a unique camp. What do you think will be the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, like for any team, I think, and Coach says this all the time, is the team who's going to be the healthiest. The team who's going to have all their players available. That team has the best chance to win. And I think we're just so tight on those details around here that we won't have that problem. Hopefully we don't have that problem.
Chris Emma?
Anthony, how would you describe what Allen Robinson means to this team?
He means a lot to this team. He's one of those leaders that we need on this team. He's not very vocal, but he does it a lot through his actions. And a lot of people pay attention to that. And, he leads by example. So he's a great guy like I said, he's a great guy to look up to.
Mark Potash?
Anthony, what nuance of being a pro or playing the actual position of wide receiver in the NFL do you now get or understand that you had maybe no idea or just really didn't appreciate when you were drafted?
When I was drafted, I was just thinking of the game as, just going out there and playing, not really paying attention to the depth of my route or, the small details of, this game. And I was really just going out there and running and playing, you know what I mean? But when you really understand the game and, the concepts of the play and what kind of defense is back there, then it puts you on another level. And I think this year, I've gained a lot of knowledge, and I've been working pretty hard. So I can't wait to see the result.
Mark Grody?
Anthony, you said that part of the reason why you started to have more success at the end of last year and in this offseason that you started to get more opportunities to get the ball. Did you have to speak up for that? Was that like a point of frustration for you, getting more footballs thrown your way?
No, I didn't say too much, but I just never stopped working, and eventually the opportunities came my way. So hopefully I get even more of those this year. Hopefully I start off the year like those last few games of the season last year. So I'm ready for everything that comes with it.
We got time for a few more. Dan, go ahead.
Anthony, what are your early impressions of Nick Foles and just throwing with him on the field? And then regardless of which quarterback wins this competition, what do you want out of your starting quarterback when you guys are headed for week 1?
I just want a guy that takes control, makes the right decisions when it's time for him to make them. And, just he's a leader out there. So that's what we need at that position. And both guys, I could tell you, are working really hard out there. Even in walkthroughs, they're doing like all sorts of game reps, and they're really getting it in over there. So this is going to be an interesting competition to see, and the best man is going to get the job.
Adam Johns?
Anthony, how do you view maybe your place and the receiver's place in that quarterback competition? Like, what's the message amongst you guys as this plays out and gains a lot of attention?
To just do our job. That's all we can do. Our job is to, run routes and catch football. So that's what we're gonna do. Focus on us and let them play out their competition.
JJ?
Anthony, what has it been like, the conversations you've had with your teammates, coaches about social justice, police brutality, since you guys have got back into the building? I know you had that big meeting back over the spring after the death of George Floyd. But what has it been like now that everyone's kind of been together at Hallis Hall?
Everyone expressed, their thoughts about, the whole situation. And I believe everyone in this building is on the same page as far as social justice goes. Everyone's behind each other 100%. And, there is no bad apples in this bunch. So I think we're together as a team, and it's going to stay that way.
And last question, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, Anthony, just circling back on Nick, what have been your impressions? I know it's only been a couple of days actually throwing with him, but what have been your impressions of having that opportunity to finally get going with him?
You could definitely tell that, Nick has been playing this game for a long time, and, he knows this offense very well. And, he's very detailed in practice. You can catch him in the back of an offensive play going through his progressions, and he's not even in. So, that's just the type of player he is. And I can't wait to see him live action, to see what he really can do.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Anthony, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Without knowing what is better with this offense, without knowing what all is new, what are you most curious to see as practice starts to accelerate here in the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think that you can kind of, for me personally, being in the league a little bit, I got a feel for, the direction that the offense was going in and where the change will be made, So I think the biggest thing is just the curiosity level is just, how it all comes together, But I mean, for me personally, with the scheme that we have and what we're doing, I could tell, where we were going in the direction that we were going in, So I'm definitely excited to get out there and start to go full speed against the defense and see what we have.
Colleen?
Hey, Alan. Now that you've finally gotten around Nick Foles and been on the field with him just a little bit, what have been your impressions of him?
Same thing like I heard before, that he's a a really good teammate. He's a competitor. And just all around, a good player. Again, I kind of said it in the spring and summer. You're bringing high character guys into the locker room. That's always a good thing for the team. So for us, it's just about going out there, execute no matter who's in the center. And just trying to make plays. So that's the mindset we have.
Chris Emma?
Alan, where do you and your side stand with regards to a possible contract extension? And is that something you have interest in doing before the start of the season?
For me, like I said before, it's different things that go into it, between the team and my agent and stuff like that, But again, for me, I'm not really, too focused on that right now. My main focus is on camp. We have a game in about a month, so not having OTAs, kind of starting a little bit slower in training camp and stuff like that. My main focus is getting right for week 1, and whatever happens with that happens.
Kevin Fishbane?
Hey, Alan, is there anything specific in your game that you might have honed in on this offseason? Anything different in your training that you might have done as you head into your 7th season?
Yeah, big thing was just, getting better at the top of the route, being able to be more explosive in and out of my breaks. That was a big thing that I focused on, especially certain intermediate routes, being able to train myself to want to create the proper separation that I want to create, also, being able to create some more separations in my route will give me some more run after catch opportunities, which is something that I want to hone on as well this season.
Mark Grody.
Hey, Alan, you've been tremendously supportive of Mitchell Trubisky and his time here, working out with him in multiple off seasons. Is it awkward at all having a quarterback competition and kind of picking sides and kind of deciding on who is best for you between Trubisky and Foles?
No, at the end of the day, it's not about who's best for me. It's about what's best for the team. So it's never awkward or anything like that. Again, like I said before, both of those guys are great teammates. So it's not something that's difficult at all. Again, I've played with Mitch now for 3 years. Will this be the 3rd year? And as far as meeting Nick recently, hearing a lot of different things from him. Being around him, he's also a good teammate. I think that's what makes this competition a little bit different than those other guys. Just even seeing how those guys communicate in meetings and stuff like that. At the end of the day, the job is for us to be, the best team and the best players that we can be. So that's a challenge to ourselves. It's not about any other player, in the locker room. Even in our receiver room, it's not about any other, receivers or anything like that. It's about for us individually. Can we be the best players that we can be each and every day?
Mark Potash.
Hey, Alan, Mike Furry was very honest about Anthony Miller the other day, talking about that, he kind of came in with a college mentality that, he's got to learn about the nuances of the game to really be a good NFL receiver. And he says that, guys like yourself are a part of that maturity process. I'm just wondering, have you actually seen that in Anthony, not just from a production standpoint, but just from a maturation standpoint, that he's actually has taken that next step and is going to be the player the Bears hope he can be?
Yeah, again, it's a process, especially, for him coming into the league. A lot of guys come into the league a little bit differently, so things happen to be taken on a little bit differently, So I think for him, he's definitely finding his niche with everything and growing and continue to develop and mature and see different things, within the game, because football is a game within the game. You have everything that's going on in between the lines, but also, before and after, things, preparing yourself to see different things, what you're expecting, being able to predict different coverages, different leverages, and things like that. And I think that's something that he's learning, being able to line up to know, okay, if he gets this look, how defenders will play him like this, So it's all a process. And the more snaps that you take, the more familiar you get with that, So again, like I always say, playing ball is the only way that you can get better and the only way that you can understand more things, So I think for him, late last season, as he started to get a lot more reps, as we got later in the season, he was kind of able to take that momentum into this year, and just kind of, be able to develop and be able to mature, within the lines a lot.
Adam Johns.
Hey, Alan, to go back to Mitch a little bit, all that time spent with him this offseason when there's not an offseason program, since you were with him so much, how did you maybe see him improve during that time throwing together? And how do you see it maybe coming to fruition here now that all you guys are together at Hallis Hall?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm not a quarterback coach or anything, so it's hard to tell. I don't really know mechanics and stuff like that. But just as far as how you see him move around and how he throws the ball, as far as being just more confident in everything. I think, like I said before, that's the same thing with Mitch. Is as you're going into your fourth year, the more football that you play, you're able to slow the game down. You're able to slow a lot of things down. And I can only imagine from a quarterback level, because it's a lot more going on rather than just running routes and looking at leverages and corners and corners coverages and stuff like that. So again, I mean, the more football that you play, the more stuff that you see, that's kind of where you take your game to the next level. That, a big portion of this game is mental, and the more mental acumen that you can have, on that field and in between those lines, and the more information that you can retain and keep, that helps you play a lot faster, and I think as far as Mitch, you can just tell that when he steps into the field, when he steps onto the field, the things that he sees and stuff like that, happens a lot faster, and just, his recognition and stuff like that, which is fun to see. Like I said before, I mean, we have a young team, so being able to see a lot of these guys develop over the past couple of years has been fun.
JJ?
Yeah, now that you guys are all kind of back together again and the focus is on football, what have the conversations about social justice initiatives and police brutality been like? And as a second part to that, when you've been watching the NBA, has there been stuff that league has done in their support of Black Lives Matter that you've seen that you'd kind of like to take over into the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, we still, at the same time, we had kind of talked as a team over the offseason of, just taking action and stuff like that. From the first day we stepped in here, for them getting guys registered to vote, that's another big thing, as well. So just for us, it's about action, seeing if we can, continue to get into the community, continue to speak to the youth, doing everything that we possibly can and, constantly thinking outside the box of different ideas and stuff, and just from watching NBA games, they've done a lot of great things, so just talking to our player engagement, talking to other sources within the team, again, we're trying to find different things that we can do, throughout the course of the season, to continue to preach our message.
Jason?
Alan, you guys came into camp last year just basically talking championship or bust, and there was a lot of confidence coming off of a frustrating season in 2019. What's the mood been like as you guys get started again?
It's the same mood. Everybody knows, what we're here to do, the things that we want to accomplish. Like I always said, first and foremost, it starts by winning the division. I think that's the biggest thing, and then you go on from there. But I mean, obviously for us, it's the same thing, championship. That's what we're looking for. We want to win a Super Bowl. I think every day we come into the facility, all our meetings and things like that, I think that our coaches are doing a really good job for everybody to keep that in mind, and that's the main thing, so again, for us, it's no change. Again, we got a lot of the core players, like I said before, last year was a frustrating season, we had a lot of injuries. We didn't play as well as we may have wanted, but this is a different year. We have a lot of our returning starters back. We've added some other starters on defense and offense. So again, we're looking forward to get after it and to get back to what we want to do.
Adam Hogue?
Hey, Alan, I know it's with the rookie class, it's still fresh. You're just barely getting on the field with them. But what are your first impressions with Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, I think he can be a great asset to our team. I got a chance to work out with Darnell over the summer in Florida. So being able to see pretty early and pretty quickly, what he can do and what he can bring to the table. He's a guy who's freakishly athletic. Can stretch the field. I would say it's very mature, for a rookie, on the field and off the field. That's what you want to see. I mean, he has a great grasp of the offense, so he's coming along really fast. And I think for him, that's going to allow him to be able to get on the field as much as possible.
Dan?
Alan, with such an abnormal and intense time crunch before that first game, how do you go about accelerating the process with Nick and squeezing the most out of the process with Nick just in order to get timing and rhythm and familiarity with one another?
Yeah, I think just honing in on each and every rep. I think that's the biggest thing. It is a time crunch, but at the end of the day, we're all pros. So for us, it's just about getting adjusted to certain timing. Like I said before, I think for me personally, the chemistry with certain routes. Like it's certain routes that you got to get that, but it's a lot of other routes. That you can kind of get familiar with and get comfortable with pretty quickly. So for us, whatever routes that may need a little bit extra focus or a little bit, extra repetition. We can do that after practice and grab that and get that in.
All right, we got time for a few more. Sean, go ahead.
Alan, along the same lines of you were talking about your off-season work, I saw you were working with Michael Risher. I was curious what you learned from him and how that might apply to your game.
Yeah, for me, it's just about for me, my main focus is just keeping my body right. I think that's the biggest thing. For me, the main focus going in each and every season is just playing 16 games. I know for myself, if I play 16 games, I'll be able to give my teammates and my team, everything that I'm, here to give. So for me, it's always the main focus, just on my, different core work, foot placement, and ankle stability and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that you want to focus on as a receiver, So for me, when I did get a chance to work with him, those are some of the focal points that we have, is different foot placements and stuff like that, just helping me get in and out of my breaks a lot better.
JJ?
Hey, Alan, I kind of wanted to follow up to the question I asked you about social justice. And when you saw a couple of your teammates, including Mitch Trubisky, buy and build that grocery store on the West Side, what does that speak to you about maybe if they're like the difference in this movement today than when, Colin Kaepernick first was kneeling 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think that says a lot about it. I think that was something that for sure started, and in the start of that, it was kind of frowned upon, because the bigger picture of it wasn't being understood, but now that it is, I think that you see a lot more people focusing on that, and trying to figure out a way that they can help and just kind of understanding the message and understanding the bigger picture, so whenever you see stuff like that, when you see different people from sports around the city, whether it's the Cubs, Blackhawks, Bulls, Bears, and you see guys like that come together, for a greater cause, like that, putting that grocery on the West Side. So that's something that you always want to see, because that's big, as for us, as we drove around the West Side of Chicago, and after the looting, after the rioting, they only had one grocery store really, and that grocery store had been looted and rioted, so those locals didn't have anywhere for them to purchase groceries, so being able to get that up, relatively quickly, I know that was huge for the community, and that's what it's all about.
And last one, go ahead, Dan.
Alan, Coach Free has been pretty enthusiastic about Ted Ginn's arrival. What are your early impressions of Ted and your sense for what he adds to both the offense and the room?
Yeah, I think he adds a lot. Again, for me, this is my 7th year in the league. So we bring a guy who has twice as much experience as myself. It's even for me continuing to learn different things from a vet like that. Again, this is his 14th season, so he's played a lot of ball. He's seen a lot of stuff, so even when you get in between the lines and even outside the lines, when you sit down and have conversations with him, you're able to have, life learning conversations, whether it's football or just life in general, and that's what it's about. You can kind of help guys, and help groom guys and have different conversations, with a person from experience. I think that goes a long way, across the board. He's been in this league for a while. For me and him, we've had one of the same receiver coaches before he got here, so just talking to him about, different stuff and different philosophies and, just across the board, that's what you want to have, especially when you have some young guys in the room as well. You want to have a lot of knowledge around them and just a lot of knowledge in general.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Alan, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to a link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
The Rewind Sports 60.
Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to Sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome everybody to the Rewind Sports 60. I am your host, Lauren Cox, and we are live at the WCPT studios, 8:20 a.m. on a beautiful evening in Chicago. It's about 90 degrees. It's a beautiful evening, and sports are back in full effect, and so we're going to get right to it. And we also want you guys to join us. Give us a call. Join in on the fastest hour in sports and give us your take on all the things that are going on this week in sports. Our number is 773-763-9278, and we're also streaming live on Facebook at the Rewind Sports 60. So let's get right into it, guys. I'm going to start with the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Dan, the Cubs are doing great.
Oh yeah.
Hawks are in the playoffs. I know this was a good week for you.
It was a really good week. Now of course, don't forget the WNBA, the Sky are in first place.
See, absolutely, yes.
And honestly, I watched the hockey, the basketball, and the baseball with the men. Now, bear in mind the Cardinals have played 5 games.
Okay.
There's 47 days left until September 27th, which is the last day of the season, which means they have 55 games left to play. So this is getting a little out of control. If there's any more illness, I don't see how they can do this unless they do it by percentages. And I've loved the hockey, of course. I'm a big Blackhawk fan, so therefore I've enjoyed the fact that they advanced into the playoffs. And I think it was a much better setup to have a play, immediately start the playoffs, because the NBA right now, the 8 teams in the East are set, and essentially the 8 teams in the West are set, and they still have another week of these goofy games.
Exactly.
And then they start the playoffs in the 17th. So I'm a little disappointed in that, and I understand all the messages the players have on their backs, but I think it's a little too much in your face personally, but I understand why they're doing it.
All right, well, we definitely want to get to that. We want to dive into that a little more, but we've got to bring in the main man, my partner in crime, the amazing Jerry Riles. Jerry, what do you have to say about that? The messages are a little too much.
Yeah.
I can't see them enough.
Hey, and the crowd was stunned. The crowd was stunned. Hey, it's a little bit into my face. I can't take it too much.
I understand it, though.
It's a little bit too much in my face. I mean, Black Lives Matter, equality, we want justice. It's just too much in my face. I can't take it. Enough is enough. The marvelous one has spoken, ladies and gentlemen. Lauren, how are you? Good to see you. Let me tell you something before we get into this fastest hour in sports conversation, Lauren Cox. I'm over here, in the studio, and we're streaming live on Facebook Live. Let me tell you something. I glanced over to the monitor, and our great producer, Devin Tingle, has done an outstanding job getting us all set up here. But I look over to my left at the monitor, and I see your beautiful smile.
Thank
you. Look back. You're very photogenic. You know that?
Thank you so much, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm just telling you what I see here.
Hey.
How about her parents?
Oh, yeah.
I get it from my mama, yeah. All right.
You look fantastic on and let me tell you guys, girls, people out there, if you don't believe me, you got your smartphone. Where's my smartphone? You got your smartphone, all right? You're on your monitor, whatever the case may be. We're streaming live on Facebook. Take a look. Lauren Cox looks fantastic.
Thank
Unbelievable.
you.
And of course,
Thank
the
you so
marvelous
much.
one. You look marvelous as usual as well.
How can you tell?
I'm just
I look better this way than I did with the mask off.
Hey, I'm just sick and tired of looking at all this Black Lives Matter and hands up and equal justice for all and enough is enough. I'm just sick of it. I just want.
Now, don't misquote me. I said I understand it before I said that.
Oh, okay. So I didn't misquote you.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you understand. I certainly get it. Before we move on, we got a great show, Lauren, and marvelous one. I got to tell you, Lauren.
Yes.
I'm always thinking of you. Always thinking of you. Who needs to go to work to hustle for another dollar? Sorry.
Yes.
I'm always thinking about you. Marvelous, I'm thinking of you as well.
I know what you're going to say.
Sympathies.
You don't know what I'm going to say.
Yes. Are you going to talk about the mask that you never got for us?
Well, I got you a T-shirt. I got you a T-shirt. I'm gonna get you a mask. Look, you see, let me tell you something. You want the T-shirt? I got the girl a T-shirt. She's like, I don't want the T-shirt. I want a mask.
Won't fit me. I need XXL.
Well, look, you don't want the T-shirt? I'll give it to Devin. Devin, you want the T-shirt, man?
I will cherish this T-shirt for the rest of my life. Are you kidding me?
Listen, Marvelous, I set up, and all you guys and girls out there listening, I said, I got something for you. Here's a T-shirt. I don't want the T-shirt. I want a damn mask. Here you go. Hey. Add it to your collection. We'll get you a mask. We'll get you. Well, I'm always thinking of you.
I appreciate that.
All right. Jeez, I don't even get it, man. Try to be a nice guy, and
we appreciate you, Jerry.
It's just like
we just want a mask. We want to know where our mask.
It's just like being at home. That's all.
Yeah.
And speaking of masks, I got to, before we get into the fastest hour in sports conversation, I got to say thank you to the Knights of Columbus out in Wheeling, St. Joseph the Worker, Dave Vogel. They gave me a new mask. I got a mask on. If you can see, it's the Knights of Columbus. So I have to say thank you to those guys for looking out and getting the job done. And also I have to say thanks to Dan Wynn, again, over at St. Joseph the Worker in Wheeling. I brought in a bunch of donuts.
We don't eat donuts.
What do you mean?
We don't eat donuts.
Devin, you eat donuts, don't you? Yeah, he's tempted to get one now.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Shavari, he eats donuts. I know Nick eats donuts. Marvelous, you eat donuts?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm the only one.
I had about 3 of them. That's not good for me.
Wow.
Because Lauren,
you ate my donuts.
Yeah.
You ate yours. The ones for me.
I ate Marvelous.
I didn't touch them all.
And that's why I had them. I only touched the ones that I put in my mouth, Marvelous. I only touched the ones I put in my mouth.
I know.
But the reason, I had to bring them in because I'm telling you, I would have been snacking. And you guys probably know me by now. I don't do a lot of working out. And
you do no working out.
See?
Yeah.
See?
I've been riding a bike for the
Lauren, wait a minute. Yeah, I do some working out.
Okay.
I get up from the couch and walk into the kitchen and go to the refrigerator.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, I get a workout in. Yeah. But I have been golfing too, and it's interesting. I went golfing, and my buddy and I, Rod Black golf course over there on the north side, Rogers Park. But we went golfing and we were paired up because it was so busy. Twosome, myself and Greg, and another couple, Chris and Stacy. Stacy's from Texas. But we were, to put together as a foursome. Here's where my mind is. I asked the attendant and everything. I said, hey man, don't have to wear this mask while I'm out on the course. He's like, no, you're good. I'm like, okay, I'm cool.
Outside.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, but some people still. My buddy has sarcoidosis, so he wears the mask.
Oh yeah, if you have some health issues.
So anyway, I'm like, we're on probably the 5th hole or the 6th hole, and Stacy and Chris, we get to know them and everything. So I'm trying to be nice and a good guy or whatever. I had my hand sanitizer. But I had the Arnold Palmer
lemonade and tea.
Mm-hmm.
And was something in it?
In a can? No. It's And
y'all wasn't having no fun then. But go ahead.
No, I don't drink. I don't subscribe to that.
You don't drink?
I don't drink.
I thought maybe you'd Arnold Palmer clubs.
Yeah. I had the Arnold Palmer, right? The drink, and I offered them a can, and I was handing it to them. And they're like, no, that's okay. And I was like, ding, the light bulb came on. I was like, damn it, I'm so sorry. I'm not that kind of guy. I do respect you. And I said, Corona. I said, forgive me. But that tells you and shows you where we are today.
Yeah.
It tells you and shows you where we are today, that, you know, even on the golf course, you can't extend a generous offer. Marvelous. It kind of bothered me.
Can't share any food or drink, yeah.
Can't hug your loved ones.
No. Maybe you can hug them facing the same direction, I don't know.
Well, somebody asked for a COVID hug, and they actually gave a complete hug.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of cool.
And then you can do the fist bumps with your elbows, which is just
yeah.
kind of
How about
corny.
we do with gloves, a fist bump? I don't know.
You can do like they do in the WNBA, and you can do the chest bump.
And you know, in New Zealand, they said that it's 100 days without any new reported cases or transmission of the coronavirus. So everybody on Twitter went crazy and said, you know, see, this is ridiculous. What's going on in America?
How many people live in New Zealand?
I know it's the population of Illinois, pretty much.
Marvelous. I mean, to the credit and looking on the positive end, you got to start somewhere, right? And how many bikers went to that rally? Was it? You heard about the rally that all these bikers went to?
And they started fighting or something?
No, this
was another one.
Was it 25,000 or 250,000 or something like that?
Where?
I don't. Devin, can you look up that information when you get an opportunity?
I'm surprised. They actually almost have 5 million people in New Zealand. That's more than I thought.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean.
The best thing to do is
other countries around the world are controlling it a lot better than the United States.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to get into all of this, but it's based on the leadership or lack thereof in this country. That at the end of the day, that's all it is. That it's just lack of leadership. And you know what? I heard the show before us. They talked about us. Well, they didn't talk about us, but they talked about the United States and you know, people who are still you know, supporting what's going on in this country regarding coronavirus and COVID-19. And they said, hey man, after 6 months, if you still don't get it, I have no help. I can't help you out.
Yeah.
I you know, it's 6 months.
It's people standing firm on it too.
Yeah.
Come on now. This is ridiculous now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not ridiculous now.
Anybody want a drink?
There it is. Simple measures: social distancing, wearing your mask, and washing your hands.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's ridiculous. It really is. And after 6 months, if you still can't get it and don't understand, and you think that it's a joke, you know, the smart thing to do is just to stay away from those individuals because
that's why
I mean, come on now. This, first of all, and I'm not trying to get into politics or any of that stuff, because by this time, I mean, it's August 9th, and if you still support this guy and believe what he, stands for, there's nothing that I can say or whatever. But my point being is that he forewarned you, even before the elections, of what type of individual that he is, what his mentality is, what his viewpoints are as far as just his moral standards.
What did Maya Angelou say? When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Exactly.
He showed it.
So he showed it, and people still accepted him and embraced him. Okay, so now he gets into the White House, and then he starts his antics as far as the different things that he's doing, whether it's insulting, other candidates, where it's insulting, people who have passed away, whatever the case may be. But when you get to the point where this guy is telling you to drink disinfected, and he tells you to drink disinfected, he tells you that this is just a hoax put up by the Democrats, he tells you that before Easter that this virus is going to be gone, it's like a miracle, all of these shenanigans, and then his administration tell you, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, he's just joking about that. Let me tell you something. August 9th, I swear to you, I don't pay attention, I don't watch, I don't listen. Because if you don't know that this guy is full of crap,
and now he's trying to screw the postal system.
This
is just outrageous.
If you believe this guy and you support this guy after everything that's happened in this country and what's going on in this world, there's nothing that I can do for you. There's nothing that I can say to you. And it's just disappointing. And I don't mean to get on my soapbox, but that's what happened.
Hey, Jerry. Of course, I'd rather stick to sports, but it's 86 days in election day, and the people will decide. So that's
if we have an election, Marvelous.
Yeah, you'll have an election.
I don't know about that, because this guy in office.
No question in my mind.
Well, we may not have it when we normally have it. When is it? The first Tuesday in November?
November 3rd, 86 days from today.
Yeah. If we have an election then, I'll eat your hat.
Okay, I'll bring my hat. Because
I don't put anything past this guy.
Yeah.
I don't put anything past this guy.
You'll have an election, but you may not have the results. I'll give you that.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, when he gets kicked out, he said he ain't leaving. So, hey, we got more drama to come.
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
Never heard that.
I'm telling you. Uh-oh. Marvin's went, uh-oh.
You said you never heard that?
He said he's not leaving. He himself
Wait a minute. Now, are you surprised? Is this something outrageous that he wouldn't say? Come on,
he could have said it, but I didn't hear it.
Well, let's just say for sure.
Let me tell you something. I don't put anything past
He ain't going down without a fight.
Right, exactly. I don't put anything past this dude.
I don't see him just saying, okay, bow out, peace.
86 days.
Well, I don't put anything past this dude. And I tell you, there's one dude on our line who is phenomenal. He's outstanding, does a fantastic job covering your Chicago Cubs. And he's on our TR60 hotline, and he's definitely a friend of the program. He's none other than Gordon Wittenmeyer of NBC Sports Chicago, joining us to talk some Cub baseball, Major League Baseball. Gordon, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing okay. Thank you so very much for asking. I was having a fantastic day. I was enjoying a fantastic Sunday. I wish you were here because I brought donuts in for everyone. But we get it. Yeah, I brought the donuts in, man, and I wish you were here to share some of that because I can't eat it all because I don't work out, and I'm gonna expand if I. Yeah, I can't do it.
I can't tell you how much I wish I was there.
Well, hopefully we get through this, man, we can definitely have you in studio, and I'll bring all the donuts and coffee and anything else you want, man. But we certainly appreciate you taking some time out on this Sunday and joining us to talk some baseball. And we thought it was going to be Sunday night baseball between the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals down in St. Louis, but there's a flip-flop, and ESPN is starting to recognize the boys on the south side. That, of course, the Chicago White Sox, who will be playing Sunday night baseball. So at least Chicago will get a dose of one of their teams. But as far as the Cubs are concerned, man, first of all, kudos to Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer, and the entire team over there, from the front office down to the trainer, down to the guy sweeping up everything and disinfecting everything, because the Cubs are pretty much the best team in baseball, probably the best team in sports, because they have zero positive testing regarding, as far as results, the COVID and Corona, and they're in first place pretty much in the National League Central Division. So it seems like they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing on the field and off the field, man. But they get penalized because they can't play. Go ahead.
I'm glad you put it the way you did, because best team in baseball, maybe best team in sports, at the most important thing of all in sports this year, containing the coronavirus, avoiding it. Look, every team in every sport that's trying to play is walking through a minefield when it comes to the health risk, and the Cubs have done a pretty good job of sniffing this stuff out and kind of putting protocols together that far exceeded anything the league put together. And then even more impressive, and this is by far the most impressive thing to me, they got buy-in all the way through the clubhouse. Young guys, older guys from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, who maybe brought in different attitudes about this virus, and yet they've got a singular attitude within that clubhouse. And you don't have to go any farther than what happened last night in Chicago to know just how easy it is for this stuff to come apart because of one guy. We just found out news today that Zach Plesac of the Cleveland Indians was out last night with friends, and the club sent him home to Cleveland because he broke the rules, violated the protocols, and it'll be interesting to see if MLB does anything about that, because supposedly there was a stricter sort of ethos involved in this last week. A lot, supposedly more punishment was at stake with some of these protocols starting this past week. So it'll be interesting to see if Zach Plesac gets punished by the league for that. But he's been sent home and isolated from the rest of his team. One guy, one night after pitching, a 25-year-old kid hanging out with friends. It's something as simple as that can start an outbreak in your whole team. I mean, just ask the Cardinals.
Hey, Gord, what do you think? I saw something, an article somebody wrote, this is Dan, about there being penalty for teams that get the COVID and forfeiting games even. Do you advocate that?
Well, it depends. That's so hard to really... I mean, how good are your investigators, right? How good's your evidence? Are you really going to prove that... the Marlins admitted it, that they maybe... broke some protocols and regretted it. The Cardinals didn't. All the evidence suggests that the Cardinals got this from one guy who was known outside the team, a trusted guy, but outside the testing policies, who showed no symptoms, something a trainer, nutritionist type of a guy who was around a couple of the players and later tested positive, and it was... So this is what their contact tracing showed. And all those rumors about casinos and going out turned out to be just that, rumors. As it was reported out and fully vetted, those reports turned out to be wrong. So they did everything right and still wound up with this. And yet there were still reports out there that were suggesting they did things wrong. So I don't know how you as a league effectively punish a whole team, especially when the team attempts to do everything right. The bigger question I have is, if you've got this widespread enough with a team and they're going to lose enough games, I mean, we're looking at 2 weeks between games for the Cardinals. I mean, you get to a point where their season starts to lose a chance of becoming viable compared to the rest of the teams. Can you drop a team from the league just because they can't get all their games in, or do you somehow put them, hold them to a different standard when it comes to the number of games they can play? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to any of this stuff is. And what happens if a third team has an outbreak that keeps them sidelined for a week or more and affects the teams on their schedule in turn? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this stuff. It's coming home to roost, though.
Well, I said earlier, the Cardinals have played 5 games, and they have 47 days. They'll have to play the remaining 55 now.
Exactly. And the next 2 days, the next 3 days are wiped off the schedule now too, because of the Pirates series coming up. So it's something like 44
days for 58, 55.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, how do you do that? And I mean, the easy answer is you play these 7-inning doubleheaders, but how much higher risk is that? When you're exposing yourself that much time at the ballpark, and how much injury risk are you putting the team at when you're going to try to schedule that many doubleheaders at really an unprecedented rate?
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is.
You know what? I think there's only one answer. We're on with Gordon Wittenmeyer of the NBC Sports Chicago Cub Insider, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 on our Terra 60 hotline. Honestly, there's only one answer, and that answer is just shut it down and stop it. That's the answer. And I understand once you get started and on paper you map everything out and you lay everything out and say, okay, if everyone follows protocol and do what they're expected to do and do what they should do, we should be able to play 60 games in 66 days and get to the playoffs and the World Series. But unfortunately, we live in a society that's divided. There are some people that are following protocol and believe and say, hey, I got to do everything in my power to make sure I abide by it. And then as you talked about with Plesac, say, hey, you know what? I'm a young 25-year-old some kid. I'm throwing lights out. The guy's pitching his brains out. He's unbelievable. And he's like, hey, I'm on cloud nine. I'm living the dream. And so he feels he can go out and hang out with his buddies. And that's the unfortunate situation, because as we see with the Marlins and we see with the St. Louis Cardinals, people aren't all in the same, they're not all in this together, Gordon. And now we see the problem that we're seeing, and we hear the commissioner last week say and we knew it was just a bunch of, mumbo jumbo, but he said, hey, we're going to shut this thing down if you guys don't get it right. And they still haven't gotten it right, and they're still trying to trudge through. But in my opinion, at the end of the day, you got to shut it all down if you want people to stay healthy, because there's a bigger issue down the road, in my opinion, if you continue to try to see if you can get through this thing.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I can't sit here and say, well, you're just flat wrong, because there's been an ethical question to this from the beginning. We know that the reason that they're playing, it's because it's a $10 billion industry, and they're trying to recoup as much of their losses as they can. And we know that $1 billion is at stake if they can get to the postseason and get that finished. So we know that's why they're playing.
Right.
And if we didn't know that back when they started talking about restarting, we learned it real quick when they were negotiating with the players' union over how much they were going to pay them. So we know that's why. And is there a compromise in there? Because the other side of it is a lot of these players truly do want to play. I mean, they're getting a fraction. So some of the guys that have plenty of money already, they still want to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're adult professionals that are making their own level of informed decisions. So they have that right to, unlike say a college athlete, to opt in or out. With sort of full authority. But maybe there's a compromise. Maybe the compromise is you shut it down for a week or two while you get this stuff straightened out, and then you finish up and play maybe a 40-game season. I don't know what it is.
No, it's just my opinion again, and I think you just have to completely shut it down, because even before the pandemic, we know there's a flu season, right? And that's usually around September, October. My neighbor told me to get a flu shot in September. Why? Because it's going to hit. Yeah. So now, when you couple that with the pandemic, I just really Buster Olney of ESPN, his words continue to echo in my mind that we're not going to get through this season, and that's one of the main reasons. You got the COVID and you got the flu, and you put it together, and it's not a good formula for success, in my opinion, man. It's just not.
Yeah, and they said this from the start. One of the reasons why when the players said, well, just do the postseason into November, and the owner said, no, we can't do that, and their thinking was, we won't get that far because of the second wave. Everybody's waiting for this second wave in the next flu season, where a second wave of COVID.
Right.
And hell, we've had a second wave within the first wave. So there's no way you're going to escape that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hear everything you're saying, and again, I can't say you're wrong. When I look at Eduardo Rodriguez from the Red Sox, who he's shut down now indefinitely. He wants to pitch. But he got diagnosed with, what is it, myocarditis?
Mm-hmm.
It's an arrhythmia of the heart, and it's a result of the case of COVID that he had. So this is one of the lingering effects he's dealing with, and he anticipates and they hope that this is something that can be treated and that he'll be fine long term. But these are things we don't know. These are the things about this virus that we just don't know. Here's a guy, a healthy, fit, professional athlete who got it, did not get it as severely as some people do, apparently,
right,
and yet still has this very lingering, serious issue. And this is his heart, for God's sake. And they've made the right choice to shut him down indefinitely because of it while they get him healthy. But how many more of these are out there? How many more of these are waiting to happen? Yeah. And God forbid worse. So that's always been in the background of this, and it's tough to think in those terms, but it's always there.
Hey, Gordon, Lauren Cox here. So I wanted to ask. I know they asked David Ross, Cubs manager, what he was going to do this weekend since the series was postponed, and he said he'd be watching baseball with his pup. But wanted to get some insight from you about his leadership. I mean, with the adversity that, of course, is this season and the world now, and him being a new manager, take us in the locker room. How has this leadership been throughout this amazing season, to say the least?
Yeah, that's a great question, because going into this whole thing before they restarted, I was thinking, Joe Madden has this unique way of working and dealing with people, and especially for a guy of his generation of sort of transcending generations. Like he does a good job of communicating with young people, and I thought, well, he's going to be really good at handling this. And we still didn't know what kind of manager David Ross was going to be, much less under circumstances like this. But it turns out he is a really good fit for this. His personality, which we already knew. We already knew he had a relationship with these guys. 9 of those guys in that clubhouse were on the team with him when he was a player, winning that championship in 2016. So there were built-in relationships already, and he had maintained a connection to the team since then through the front office, and so he would be at spring training, and he's maintained those relationships along the way. So that helped. And he's got a catcher who was always a clubhouse leader. So he dealt with every pitcher on his staff. He dealt with different personalities and trying to get them through games, almost as a second manager on the field. And then being the clubhouse leader just across the board. Anyway, all these skills have come in to play in this really unique time, sort of as a really, I guess you could call it a happy accident, just because of the moment we're in. But this is also part of the intent of why they hired him, is because he had that skill set. But it's really putting him in a good place to deal with this, and for the players to kind of all buy in. They've got a leader who, is one of them. I mean, he rallies them, and it's a natural thing.
Yeah, it is, and I echo exactly what you said. It's a great opportunity. It's an unfortunate situation that we're in, and that as a society and a world. But I really look at this season, Gordon, as being training wheels for Rossi on the north side, and for the entire team on the south side. When you talk about the White Sox, I mean, what a golden opportunity. Even if we don't get through, the completion of the season, it's a great opportunity for these young kids on the south side to get out there and play Major League Baseball. And we've just seen a glimpse of what the future looks like regarding the White Sox. And so this season, in my opinion, is training wheels, because they're getting an opportunity to get out there and get a taste of it. Once we get back to normalcy, if we ever get there, and they can play 162 regular game season, that team on the south side, oh my goodness, holy Moses!
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I just keep thinking it doesn't matter if the training wheels hold up the bike if there's a truck coming down the road.
You got that right. You get that right.
I keep thinking of this virus.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to, I'm the guy that looks at the glass half full. And I'm trying to be optimistic, but, our motto here at the Rewind Sports 60, Gordon, is real sports, real talk, just plain real. And the reality of it is we're in this thing for a long, long time. And, sports or no sports, man, we got to take care of each other. We appreciate you taking some time out to join us on the fastest hour in sports conversation. It is the Rewind Sports 60. Gordon Whitmire, thank you, brother. Stay safe, and we'll certainly be talking with you moving down the road, okay?
Thanks, Gordon.
Hey, thanks.
You too. Be well.
Yeah.
You too. Thank you so very much. He's the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
I had a thought, though. I was talking about, we go through the flu and the coronavirus and everything.
Yeah.
And then we get to Halloween or early November, and you have the Minnesota Twins and the Colorado Rockies in the World Series.
Oh, jeez.
Denver versus Minnesota outside. That would be the topper to the whole thing.
He is the marvelous one, Dan Marver. She's the lovely, talented, outstanding Lauren Cox. I'm Jerry Riles, and we come back, ladies and gentlemen. We go to the bubble. We go down to Orlando, or we talk about the NBA as far as what's happening. We're getting ready for the playoffs. It's the Rewind.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
If it's Chicago sports you want, you're in the right place.
Hello, Chicago!
The Rewind Sports 60.
That's the best in the city of Chicago.
Welcome back to the Rewind Sports 60 live with the best sports panel in Chicago. Lock it in.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rewind Sports 60. I am your host, Lauren Cox, here with the fastest hour in sports talk. And we have on our TR60 line, Sam Smith, Bulls.com columnist. How are you, Sam, this wonderful Sunday evening?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
So we want to get right into it. Everything with the bubble and the NBA, everything is just all up in the air now in terms of with COVID-19 and the Bulls. But I wanted to ask, because I heard reports that they were possibly still talking about keeping Boylan as the coach. What have you heard in terms of the coaching situation with the Bulls? And I was a little surprised when I heard that rumor. So we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Bulls coaching change?
Well, I don't know that it's a story because the coach has 2 years left, and nobody has suggested they were thinking about making a change. So that's, it's sort of like media and fan-driven. But, right. They hired a new executive, and he just said he's analyzing the staff. So he never broached the notion of making a staff change. And in fact, seems to me he already indicated he's not, because he made a couple of major moves when he came. And usually when you come in, you do what you're going to do, and then you sort of move forward with what you got there. And, the general manager was released, Gar Forman, and the head trainer, Jeff Tanaka. So those are two substantial figures. So I don't really think there was really anything going on. And Arturis indicated, and that's where I think people are missing the point, especially Bulls fans on this. It's really the NBA has done the team a tremendous disservice. And if there was going to be any significant changes, it would have been if they had an opportunity, in which they should have, to be in Orlando to finish the season, or at least play 8 games, and then new management would have had an opportunity to judge players, judge staff, interaction, teaching, everything they do, and now they haven't. So I really think once the Bulls were eliminated from going to Orlando, I think the NBA did Bulls fans and the organization a tremendous disservice and set them back potentially years because of this. Then I think the new management's hands were tied. I don't think they were in position to really do anything based on what. I mean, you watch more Bulls games than they did, most likely, and so I don't think they had any idea what's going on with the team.
Well, wait a minute, Sam. We're on with the great Sam Smith, Bulls.com, a longtime columnist, covering the Chicago Bulls and the greatest city in the world, Chicago. You're saying that you believe the NBA did the Chicago Bulls a disservice by not inviting them down to be a part of this close of the season, the restart, and the play into the playoffs. And you say that because of what again? Because maybe I missed it. You're saying the NBA did the Bulls a disservice by not inviting them down to the bubble in Orlando.
Absolutely. No, it's a disaster for the organization. Well, just look at what's going on. In February, would you have considered the possibility of, say, trading T.J. Warren for Zach LaVine or Lauri Markkanen? No. But now T.J. Warren's averaging 38 points. Yeah. And all of a sudden, well, he's a potential all-star and all this. There was no opportunity. And now, at the very least, if you're looking at it, selfishly, you say, well, he's much more valuable as a trade possibility now. The guy's averaging 38 points and, great scorer, this and that. So, nobody with the Bulls have had this opportunity to do this. I know, you're probably fans are down on the Bulls. Oh, it was a disappointing season. Want to move on. But you're missing the point that, it's like saying, in March, if you can't make the playoffs, they don't send you home. On several levels, like I say, it doesn't give Arturis and Eversley an opportunity to judge the players or the staff. That's one thing. Doesn't give the players an opportunity to do something at a time when others are.
Right.
And also, if you look at just the teams that are not going to make the playoffs, like, say, Phoenix, what a great opportunity. All these players together, developing teamwork, bonding, all these things we talk about that are so valuable, these supposed intangibles, the Bulls don't get to share in. So several other teams too. What's the upside to this? What's the positive?
So here's the deal, and the reason we're in this situation, Sam, and I love you and I respect your work and everything you've done recently, and of course over your illustrious career. But here's part of the problem. First of all, we're going through this pandemic that none of us has ever gone through, and for the Brain Trust and Adam Silver and his team have done a fabulous job of putting this hub together down in Orlando. So it's partly to reduce the risk of players getting this virus and spreading it. So that's one reason.
No. You're wrong.
No, Sam.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong scientifically, because there's no evidence anywhere that having 80 players versus, say, whatever the number you wanted to. The point was that was going to work from the beginning. There was whatever the criticisms were, it was going to work because they're protected and they're safer than you are. There's no way you're in a position where you have less chance of getting an illness than they do. They're tested constantly. They're monitored constantly. They're people who interact with them are monitored.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a closed environment.
No, I get that.
They can't go outside. So it was for sure going to work. And look, if you wanted to do the league, if they wanted to do what this is, I mean, it's pretty apparent what they did, which was, which not quite criminal, but certainly unfair. This is basically all about trying to get Zion Williamson into the playoffs.
And they were eliminated today.
Well, your plan didn't work, Sam.
No, Sam.
Wait. It's so transparent, the stunt the league pulled, that there was no reason to bring 6 teams. They made up. They manufactured this notion of, well, if you're within 6 games of the playoffs, you can make the playoffs.
No, Sam.
Sam. It's obvious what they did.
Sam, you got the wrong player. You got the wrong plan. It's not Zion. It's LeBron James. they want LeBron James and the Lakers.
That was a shoo-in.
To win the championship. That's what that's all about. Zion, yeah, he's the heir apparent, but they want LeBron and the Lakers in there.
No, they were already in the playoffs.
But they want them to win.
They had the option of starting the playoffs, doing a camp and whatever, and have 16 teams, because there was a big gap between all the 8s and 9s. So you could have just started the playoffs, and it being an aberrational season, you could have done anything. So, but they added 6 teams for no reason. Well, one reason, to give Zion a chance to be on TV, give some ratings. And once you were going to do that, then you had to include everybody else and give everybody else a chance. I'm telling you, you like to criticize the Bulls, but what the league has done, the league has put basically classified like a secondary status. How could you not say that? See that?
Well, one reason
22 teams you can play, but you 8 can't.
Sam, one reason we can't see it is the fact that the Bulls were terrible. they were terrible, and they did not earn the right to go down to the bubble. They didn't earn the right because they were so bad.
No. I understand they didn't earn the right to be in the playoffs. But neither did Phoenix, neither did Washington, neither did New Orleans, any of those teams. They didn't. They inserted 6 teams with an agenda to put one guy into the playoffs. They're not going to get it because, of all things, his own team stopped playing him.
Right.
Half the time.
Yeah, he played. The guy goes home. He plays 15 minutes. He scores 13 points when he comes back. Unbelievable.
But the other part of it is you talk all the time about the point is you look. The Bulls and a number of other teams were in a routine that I'm sure you had lobbied for over the last years. Let's lose games so we could get. I've heard this tanking thing, which I was opposed to.
No, I'm not a tanking guy.
Well, a lot of people were, obviously. And I'm sure on your show people will call in and say, better to lose games, let's have a big... So they did. They did that. They lost games. But that's part of the routine historically in sports, that, if you can't, win, or if you're not in that position, something, and people are always trying to figure out ways around it.
Yeah.
Well, but that's part of the way things operate. So they were on the downside now for a short time.
Wait,
or whatever.
But Sam.
And so they and that's a routine to getting back to competitiveness. You don't penalize somebody for doing something according to the way historically things have run. But I'm telling you, by the fact they're not down there, that's going to be a negative. And you're talking about changing coaches, changing players, whatever. How is the new management supposed to make a judgment on that?
Hey, Sam, this is Dan here. Here's a thought for you. You know how the NHL handled the startup, right? Well, I don't agree with the 8 games where they're playing random teams and it's nonsense. If they'd done what the NHL did, guess what? The Bulls were in 11th place. The Blackhawks were in 12th, and they won a round. They should have had the top 4 like the NHL, and then you would have had your wish. So the Bulls were 11th, and they would have had a play.
They should have put all 30 teams in.
Well,
I mean, what's the big deal? Really. And obviously, after the fact, you could make the case because nobody got sick. But you could have guessed that going in, as much protection they were going to get. And there's no scientific evidence anywhere that if you have 80 fewer people in some sort of a big, situation that you're going to be safer. There's nothing. There's not true. There's no way you can prove that.
Well, it's all in numbers, and we all know. You can manipulate numbers any way you look at it because the more people you have.
So based on your logic, why not just have LeBron and?
Well, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They want LeBron to win. They want him to win.
Safer, right? Wouldn't it be safer? You just put the Lakers and the Bucks in the finals and be done with it.
There you go. Anyway. Hey, Sam Smith, we're on with the great Sam Smith, Bulls.com, covering your Chicago Bulls. Here's the deal. Back to the question that Lauren asked. Jim Boylan, you talk about tanking. It seemed like he had a memo in his locker, in his office, that every night he went out prior to this pandemic, he was trying to find a way for this team to lose. And it got to the point that the fans, they had the lowest attendance in the United Center's history. I think they averaged between 9,000 and 11,000 fans at one particular time, which was the lowest that Bulls fans had ever seen in decades. And you had players, and we know Zach LaVine and his relationship with Jim Boylan didn't have the respect to want to play for this guy. We understand that the players had a time clock put in the locker room where they have to punch in and out. What is this, a hard hat, lunch pail carrying, blue collar job that these guys got to punch a clock to go to work? That's ridiculous. So when you talk about,
well, it would be ridiculous because it wasn't true.
Well, I don't know because I've been in the locker room and I've been there with it. I didn't see the clock. I was looking around myself, but there's been speculation that there's a time clock somewhere in there.
I know what you're talking about. It was a symbolic gesture. It was kind of childish. He put, and it was, you could make justification in the Advocate Center. He put a time clock as a symbolic statement to we're going to be hard hats. The old Chicago thing. Bring your hard hat, blue collar, which is nonsense, of course. But what
is wrong with this guy?
That's all it was. Nobody was punching a clock to go to work.
Here's the thing. I think people, and when you bring in a new front office, I love John Paxson, but it was time for him to move on. Gar Forman just didn't get the job done. When you clean house,
they changed that. So they changed that.
Sam,
you were asking for that, right?
Sam,
so they did that.
Everybody's asking for a new coach. That's what everybody's asking for, and no one understands why this guy has not been. And I'm not for anybody losing a job or anything like that, but it happens to the best of us, Sam, believe it or not. It's time for him to move on. And if you showed that the fan base that you're moving in a new direction, in a positive direction, the coach, who was the fixture, the face of this disaster, he's got to be the first one to go. And for him to be the last one still hanging on, and there's speculation that he's going to continue to move on, it ruffles the feathers of a lot of, and you talk about Chicago fans and the blue-collar working attitude, there are a lot of fans out there that they're throwing their hands up and go, what the hell is going on? We don't want this guy, and we know the players don't want him, so that's the confusing message that the organization is sending, that we're going to stick with business as usual, and that means losing, and it doesn't seem to send a positive message.
Well, you need to address that to the new executives. They're the ones who, the community, and you, I'm sure, you say you've been lobbying for, to change management.
Well, I'm not lobbying. I'm not lobbying.
Gar Forman is out. John Paxson is just in an advisory role and not involved. And there's 4 new executives there, and they have. I think he's got a 5-year contract from what I understand. So, I'm pretty sure he can do what he wants. It's not like they're going to fire him. And so, it's the other part is, they haven't started the season yet. Now, as I pointed out, they're not allowed to play, and they're not going to. But there's a possibility that next season doesn't start until next spring.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's plenty of time to do stuff. I'm not saying they are or they're not. I don't know. But we don't know. None of us have heard from, they did a brief teleconference months ago, but none of us have heard from any of these guys. I haven't spoken to them. I don't know them, haven't met them, because of the separation and everything with the. So, and like I said, I go back to the same thing. If you were lobbying for this, you more than anybody should have been lobbying for the Bulls to be there, because if what you suggest is the case, that the coaches can't do this and the players are in revolt and all, that would have shown up if the Bulls played. Now, how does he know? Is he know based on listening to you? I mean,
I hope not. I hope not. Hey, Sam, I hope he's not basing it on what I see. I hope he's not doing it.
That's why I say on so many levels, this really hurt the organization, because these guys, when you know that I've been around a long time, I have. One thing I know about organizations is they know their organization. We know the Bulls better than he does. He's going to learn the Bulls. But all season long, Karnisovas, I'm not even sure how to pronounce his name, watched the Nuggets. That's all he watched. And Eversley watched the Sixers. And the other guy, JJ, I'm not sure his name, watched the Pelicans. That's because that's what they had to know. We're watching the Bulls. We know more about them. They needed to see this, and Orlando would have been the ideal situation, and they didn't get the opportunity. So, like I said, I think it's a real setback, and I think the fans are missing. You guys are missing the point on this. How much this is really setting them back in the ability to make changes.
Well, I hope you're right, Sam. It's the fastest hour in sports. Thank you so very much for taking time on this Sunday. Keep up the great work, and we'll certainly hopefully talk with you down the road when we get to the playoffs and the championships, if this pandemic allows us. Sam,
that might be a number of years.
You're right. Hey, Sam.
On this conversation,
we got to go. Thank you so much, very much. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Lauren Cox, outstanding, marvelous. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Devin Tingle, you're the best in the business.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Sports Medicine Update Podcast, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and, of course, the Honorable Dr. Chad Petromas. Doctor, how are you?
Having a great day, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm out on the deck, so to speak, and enjoying the beautiful, beautiful weather here in the greatest city in the world, and of course, Chicago, Illinois. But always looking forward to having an opportunity to sit down and chat with you regarding the weekly podcast, and of course, the world of sports, Doctor. In Major League Baseball, the Florida Marlins, they had to take a few days off. About 20 players tested positive over the past couple of weeks regarding the coronavirus and COVID-19. But it seems like, Doctor, despite the fact of over the league, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Milwaukee Brewers, and players around the league have tested positive for coronavirus and COVID-19, we haven't really seen any major illnesses or people coming down with some severity as far as, the results of testing positive for coronavirus and COVID-19. What is your assessment to all of this that's developed over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I agree with you, Jerry. And I just know what I read in the papers like everybody else. But it's interesting. The one account I read said the Marlins had 20 people test positive, but only one had symptoms with body aches and cold-like symptoms, and that they had played a 3-day series. I don't remember the name of the team, and that nobody on the other team, at least to that point, had tested positive. So I think it's, one would have predicted that these young, healthy people, by and large, would not get severely infected. And we talked before about how baseball players, by and large, are pretty lean. I'd mentioned that I think football's a little bit of an outlier because it's the one sport where you get much bigger people. So I think, several things are noteworthy. One, that people didn't seem to get sick. Two, that it spread within the team, but not to the other team. And, three, there's an issue with this that hasn't really been talked about, but I talked about a few weeks ago, the whole herd immunity thing. So, herd immunity got talked about. Is it the complete answer to the problem or not? And I mentioned then, and I've written about this, I think herd immunity is kind of an intermediate thing. It's something that, if you will, flattens the curve. So when you think about it, the Marlins now are going to have, once everybody's back, I don't know, I think the rosters are 30, so maybe 20 out of 30 or something like that, people that aren't going to get infected. And if you're thinking, well, people have said that there are reinfections, I will tell you that there haven't been. The tests may vary a little, but there has not been a documented instance of somebody getting reinfected and then infecting somebody else. So the point is, most people think that these supposed reinfections are either tested or testing positive for fragments of the virus that aren't infectious. Anyway, so I think most people think that once you've had it, you're pretty much immune, at least for a significant period of time. So the point is, when you think about it, in the future, if, say, one of the 10 people, one of the people that wasn't infected gets infected, a majority of the people in that dugout are not going to be able to transmit it. And that just exerts a negative effect on the spread of the virus.
No, it's interesting. And, again, we've talked about this over the past few weeks and, of course, the past few months since, the outbreak in March. And there's, different speculations and theories, regarding how severe this could be. On one end of the spectrum, and you and I have talked about it, some people say they chalk it up as this, nothing more than, the common flu, so to speak. And others are saying that, it could lead to, unfortunately, the end of life. And the spectrum is very, very broad. As far as Major League Baseball is concerned, they don't want to be on the wrong end of this thing, and no one does. So now they're saying that players, they have everything in place, but now they're saying that players have to take it another step higher and police themselves away from the ballpark and the facilities by not going out to public venues or engaging with other folks outside of the baseball family, because you only increase the risk of potentially and possibly, bringing that virus into the clubhouse. And you and I are both on the same page. I believe that these guys are certainly the most physically fit specimens on the face of the planet when you talk about professional athletes. But the unfortunate or the downside of it is the people that they may engage with away from the ballpark, whether it's a family member, a wife, a girlfriend, kids, elderly, or anything like that, who are more vulnerable. That's where the real scare comes in and the real focus comes in. Despite what we think, how do you handle that when you're away from the ballpark if you're these professional athletes, in particular Major League Baseball players who have the high numbers?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And the thing is, I think they wind up being like other people that go to work. I have a medical practice. I go in, as I said, we scrub down the rooms, we have plexiglass up, I wear a mask all day. And then when I'm not in the office and when I'm not at home, I'm careful. I'm careful if we go grocery shopping. We've done a couple of social things, but we're careful when we do them. So I think it's kind of, and we don't have, we have one elderly person that we see who's a relative from time to time. You're just careful. And I don't think it's any different for baseball players than it is for other people. And, as you said, if you want complete safety, then just shut down and quarantine permanently. But, they're not going to do that. It's kind of my point. If they're not playing baseball, I don't think they're staying inside all day. And people like them, young, active, fit people, are probably the last people that are going to be satisfied staying home. And then if they do, there's other things that come up. There's, everybody knows domestic issues and drug issues and all kinds of things. So I think they do what they do in the bubble. When they're away from the bubble, they're just careful. And then I think that's all you can do. I don't really see where shutting down the season, if that were an option, or even withdrawing. If people want to withdraw players, they should. If you can afford not to work and you're uncomfortable working, by all means, you should. So I'm not questioning that right. What I am saying is that for those athletes, I think maybe unlike football players, if they choose not to play baseball, I don't know. I think then how do they spend their days? Staying inside all day watching television? I think that's kind of unlikely. So, and I think I've watched other sports more than baseball. I don't know how many people, maybe you do in baseball, have chosen not to play. But as you said, if you play and if you're really careful at other times, I think it's about, I think that's reasonable. I think it's about all you can do. And I think it's going to wind up being safe.
Yeah, I hope it does. And again, it's a very fine line. And you talked about, the symptoms, and it hasn't hit as far as the sports world is concerned, compared to mainstream America or society, hasn't had the effects of the long-term illnesses. Most of the players, pretty much all of them, have tested positive. They quarantine, and they seem to be okay. I just think that professional sports across the board don't want it to get to the point where a player who's pretty healthy take it home and say they're caring for an elderly parent. I know a lot of these athletes, they have newborns or young kids, that they have to look after and they have to be careful about. But I certainly understand they don't want, when I say they, the respective sports don't want these players taking this virus home, and then we have some really, negative experiences regarding personal family members and friends. So I think they're doing a very good job. I think that it's something eventually, regardless if it's a profession or not, we're going to have to live with as a society. And I think we're on the right track. You talked about professional sports as far as National Football League is concerned. Many of the teams reported to camp this past week, the last 10 days or so. Chicago Bears here in town, the northern suburbs of Chicago have reported. The rookies and now the veterans are starting to trickle in. And we've seen some footage, Doctor. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it, but we've seen some footage of the players, going through their walkthroughs at the Walter Payton facilities, and they have their mask on, which is kind of interesting, because one would say it's kind of difficult, to perform at a high level wearing these masks. Have you had a chance to see the visuals, and what do you think about the precautions Major League or National Football League are taking regarding these players?
I think that I have not seen the video. It's interesting. And, one just minor thing back on baseball again and the young families, it's almost a reflex to say, well, we have to protect the children. And, of course, we do. But as you know, and I don't know about newborns, but children, young children, school-age children, young school-age children have just shown almost no propensity to get it. And these athletes tend to be younger. They tend to have young families. So certainly if you got grandpa at home, I mean, I think that's the time to make some other living arrangement for grandpa if you can afford it, and most of them can. But a young athlete and his young wife and their young child, never say never. But I think that whole situation isn't so bad. Regarding working out with a mask, and I've tried it. I don't know if you have, but I think, lifting weights with a mask, I think is fine, and I do it. Doing something aerobic, a little tricky, but, and so I don't know, I think there's no harm in trying and doing walkthroughs and doing virtual things, but I don't think you could actually play in a game with a mask, probably.
Yeah, I would find it very difficult. And even if you started the game, these players with masks on, I think it'll be very difficult throughout the course of the 3-hour period that these guys are going to be, they're going to keep these masks on for their protection, because as you well know, the energy and the adrenaline and everything that goes into a professional sport at a high level, emotions play a major role and a major factor. And I think these players may get away from that, because we've seen it. They have penalties as far as taking off the helmet on the field. And we've seen players, do that and get penalized for it and fined for it and all of that. So it would be very interesting to see what transpires regarding the protocol or the things put into place for these players to keep these masks on throughout the course of a football game.
Jerry, I'm sorry. Just one other thought, just on baseball again, because Jerry, I know you're a student of the game, and I know you're a player. I got a question for you. I was thinking, if you wanted to take a sport that's a model for social distancing, it's kind of baseball, right? You look at the diamond, and there's all these guys standing 10 feet away from each other. And the one exception to that, outside of somebody sliding into a base, but the one exception to that is in the batter's box. So let me ask you a question, and you're more of a student of this than I am. I was thinking to myself, you've got the catcher, you got the batter, and you got the umpire. And the umpire's bent over, and he's close to the catcher, and the player's not far away. So, I wonder to myself, I've read here and there about electronic balls and strikes being used. And I've read that it works. I may have this wrong, but I thought I read about it being used in minor leagues here and there, and it wasn't so bad. I mean, I think this, and it's different at first and third base. The umpire's not like right there breathing down the first baseman's neck. But, I wonder about if you, at least for now, if you just substituted out the home plate umpire for a mechanized thing. Then all you've got is the catcher and the batter, and maybe that's suboptimal, but at least with the umpire out of there, you don't have the umpire breathing the same air with all these guys the whole game. And who knows, maybe you put some kind of a plexiglass thing on the catcher too. But what do you think about that? You think getting rid of the home plate umpire and doing electronic would work in the bigs?
Wow, that's a great question. I think even before the pandemic, Doc, I think, Major League Baseball was looking at that, and you talked about it, sampling it or, testing it out in the minor league levels. And I think that's a different subject for a different day. Might speed up the day with the pandemic. Baseball purists like myself, and I believe like you, we want to see the umpire there, because you and I go back to the day. Remember in the American League where they had those big inflatable chest protectors? Remember?
Yeah,
they
right.
They were and when we evolved from that, some people are like, hey, I don't like the way it looks, others do. As far as the electronic, baseball monitoring is concerned with the strikes and balls and strikes, I think technology is gearing toward that, and the pandemic might speed it up. But who knows? It's got to go through the collective bargaining agreement with the owners and the players' union to determine if that's what they want to use. And, of course, they have to find an alternative to put another umpire out on the field just to make sure that they can, no pun intended, but cover all the bases as far as the calls out in the field, right? But that's a good perspective as far as, accelerating this thing and testing it out because of the pandemic. The one thing about baseball, and it's been brought to my attention as well, along with the other sports, Doc, is, you and I, they talk about the spitball, right? They outlawed the spitball.
Yeah, that's right.
And but you still see pitchers going, they get off the mound, they go to their mouth.
Yeah.
And then they rub the ball up, right? Yeah. And then they get back out there and throw. Now, in this era of COVID and coronavirus, some people are saying, hey, wait a minute, because guys' hands are sweaty because they're out there in the field. They're wiping their brow.
Yeah.
And there's a ground ball to Javi Baez, a short. He grounds it, picks it up, and throws it over to Rizzo. There's still some type of perspiration, some type of moisture on the ball. And can that transfer from one to the other? I mean, have you heard of that situation?
Yeah, it's a great thought. I haven't. And, as to the umpire thing, it's kind of interesting tennis, right? So, back in the days of McEnroe, right? They had the, I forget what they called it, but the electronic figuring out Hawkeye maybe with tennis balls. And so, some people thought it was entertaining to see McEnroe or somebody arguing with the line judge. I respected the fact that he was a competitor, but I was not a big fan. Anyway, so they got rid of, they have the Hawkeye thing, so there's no more arguments. And, they still have the lines people, I guess. But I think the addition of the electronics has been a plus. It's not the same thing with baseball exactly, but, might also get rid of a few arguments.
No, it may get, but as you all know, in this beautiful world that we live in, whatever man creates, there's always some type of opposition, regardless if it's good for life and society or not. You're always going to find someone that's going to question the technology. And of course, we know with the Houston Astros and winning the World Series, as far as stealing signs and using cameras and banging on the garbage cans in the dugout, someone's always going to find an advantage regarding technology. And I'm sure if we got rid of home plate umpire in place of the electronic sports tracker for strikes, balls, and strikes, he's certainly going to have somebody questioning, the equipment and the technology. But
so Jerry,
that's the world we live in.
I got another question for you. So you're just so knowledgeable. I'll be the interviewer here a little bit. But how about the dugout? So I think players are still in the dugout, right? So I'm thinking to myself, there's no fans, at least I think. So why not put the players, in seats next to a door that comes out of the field, a couple of seats apart? What do you think?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Put the players in the seats, put them in first row seats right behind the dugout instead of in the dugout to increase social distancing.
You want to ask the good doctor, just send your replies, your comments to that email address. We certainly address it on the weekly podcast. Doc, thank you so very much. Always a pleasure, and always looking forward to the insight and the knowledge that you bring to our audience. Keep up the great work. Want you to stay safe. Are you down there in Florida?
Yeah, we're down in Naples. We have a satellite office down in Naples, and be careful. But we are. So it's not a real hotspot. Parts of Florida are. This part not so much.
Well, there's so much that we can certainly talk about, even away from the world of sports, but we'll keep it locked in. Doc, stay safe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week on the Sports Medicine Update.
You too, Jerry. Thanks.